For 100 years, the Council on Foreign Relations has been helping America play a vital part on the world stage. The Council has served as an invaluable resource for its members, policymakers, and the public by publishing bold new ideas, providing research and a forum for debate, and proposing policies. CFR has helped navigate the challenges of a changing world ever since it was born out of the ashes of a global conflict. Faced with the new horrors of total war, President Woodrow Wilson tasked 150 of the brightest minds with crafting a path to lasting peace. Known as the Inquiry, this project helps guide his vision for the post-war order.
That our people are wedded and devoted to the idea of international justice.
Members of the Inquiry set sail with President Wilson to work the sidelines of the Versailles Peace Conference. The treaty signed, European powers agree to Wilson's idea of a League of Nations. But in the end, the Senate rejects it. Undeterred, members of the Inquiry vow to continue encouraging American participation in world affairs. Back in New York, they form the Council on Foreign Relations. While comprised at the time mostly of white Northeastern men, the Council's mission has endured through a century, even as the organization, the country, and the world all changed. It aspires to be a continuous conference on international questions affecting the United States by bringing together experts on statecraft, finance, industry, education, and science. The Council's first high-profile event brings the former French Prime Minister to tour the country and to speak. But for the most part, early members focused on behind-the-scenes influence. The Council also launched a quarterly publication titled Foreign Affairs to produce analysis on important global issues. It quickly became the most influential journal on international relations in America, and soon the world, making its way to the desks of leaders like Vladimir Lenin. A young writer named Hamilton Fish Armstrong is recruited to edit Foreign Affairs for nearly 50 years. He seeks out contributions from academics and statesmen around the globe, driving vigorous debates during turbulent times.
A host of unemployed citizens face the grim problem of existence.
As the Great Depression hits, isolationist sentiment surges, and the country embraces protectionism. But Ham Armstrong and the Council continue to advocate for internationalism. It proves impossible for the country to maintain its neutrality and aloofness.
We are now in this war. We're all in it.
With the United States at war again, and the State Department lacking a policy planning capability, the Council steps into the breach. Over the next 5 years, Council members produced nearly 700 memoranda, a roadmap for a post-war world order underpinned by American-led international organizations.
A great victory has been won. The entire world lies quietly at peace.
As the Council's prestige and numbers grow, it needs a bigger home. And the late Council member Harold Pratt's Park Avenue mansion becomes its iconic headquarters.
That it must be the policy of the United States to support free peoples who are resisting attempted subjugation by armed minorities or by outside pressures.
As the Cold War begins, CFR membership expands, welcoming African Americans for the first time, and it enlarges its study groups to help build the era's intellectual framework. Ham Armstrong persuades an American diplomat to adapt his State Department telegram about the Soviet Union into a foreign affairs article under the pseudonym X.
A student of world communism, Mr. Kennan had been identified as the author of a significant article.
George Kennan's article introduces Americans to the concept of containment, which would guide America's approach to the Cold War for the next 4 decades. With the nuclear arms race underway, CFR invites a young Harvard scholar to oversee a study group on deterrence. The council publishes Henry Kissinger's resulting book, which becomes an unexpected bestseller and launches one of the most influential diplomatic careers of the century.
A war will not be kept limited because the Russians sign an agreement. It will be kept limited because the consequences of expanding it are worse than the consequences of keeping it limited.
The U.S. becomes mired in Vietnam, and there's a loss of consensus among the foreign policy leadership about which direction to go. As anti-war protests collide with the civil rights and feminist movements, a social revolution begins at home. Hearing the demands for change and seeing the shifting landscape for policymaking, the council has to evolve, transitioning from a small, elite group to something broader and more structured. Under Chairman David Rockefeller, the council opens a small office in Washington, D.C. Long overdue, women are invited to join. The council adds a new term member program for younger professionals. Military fellowships provide rising officers an opportunity to think more broadly about national security. Plus, international affairs fellowships are created to build a bridge between academia and government and create scholar practitioners.
It is a superb program, and it was indeed one of the best experiences of my life.
And a council trip to the Soviet Union demonstrates the thawing of the Cold War and previews the changing world U.S. policymakers would face. The collapse of the Soviet Empire leaves the U.S. as the sole superpower, but without a foreign policy compass. Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Leslie Gelb takes the helm, and he pivots to address the new era. He expands CFR nationally, and term memberships surge as Gelb adds new programs to prepare the next generation for a changing world. Suddenly, America is back on a war footing, but facing new challenges. Veteran diplomat Richard Haass takes over the council and expands its work in the realm of transnational issues. Haass also expands the studies program to encompass domestic issues that affect national security. The council expands the scope of its website, aiming to be the #1 source of information and analysis about foreign policy, and it opens its own building in Washington. The output of the council's scholars and task forces grow exponentially in the 21st century, bringing an ever-expanding range of policy-relevant research and analysis to federal, state, and local officials, religious leaders, media, and more. And the council deepens its resources for students and professors. It launches an education department to nurture a new generation of globally literate citizens with a better understanding of America's foreign policy options. What began as a small group of influential citizens with a shared concern has over the past century grown to a membership of more than 5,000 women and men, a plurality of whom live outside New York and Washington. All American citizens, they reside in every state in the nation and in many countries overseas. They still gather at the Harold Pratt House to share ideas, and Foreign Affairs remains the field's publication of record. The Council continues to explain why the world matters and the choices for American foreign policy, but now to a broader audience than ever. America may once again be turning inward, but just as its founders did, CFR is tackling the big issues about the country's relationship with the world. The times may have changed, but the principles have not. Independence, nonpartisanship, policy-relevant scholarship. 100 years on, the Council's work is more vital than ever.